Most missionaries there are living in houses that are mostly made of cement. Not always a guarantee of running water and electricity, but the mission does a great job of taking care of you. You always have a generator that you can start to get electricity, and usually you'll do that in the night. You can do things like charge your cell phone, or heat water for showers in the morning if you want. And running water depends on where you are, how much of it they have. When you learn how to take a shower by using a bucket of water. Get a bucket full of water, get a cup, dip the cup in the bucket, and start dumping water on your head. And you kind of learn how to shower with about roughly a gallon or two of water, and you can take a full shower with that. And some other things as you go out into the community, most of the roads are completely dirt. When you buy food, they do have some kind of supermarkets, they call them, but it's more of just an indoor market. Any market that's really indoors, they call a supermarket, where food is a little bit more expensive. And sometimes you can find things that are imported if you want. There's a lot of our food that we bought came from very small shops. There's a particular tribe in Africa called the Fula tribe, and this tribe they're spread all over West Africa, and they have a I don't know if it's a tradition or just a tendency to build small shops where they just sell common, everyday needed items, like things like bread or powdered milk or rice and candies and just things that you would eat every day. And so we would go to these little shops and we'd buy things like bread and eggs, and bread and eggs, and we ate bread and eggs a lot, and because it's more or less that, or rice, or we eventually did find one that had kind of like ramen noodles. We tried those for a little while. Cornflakes, you can find cornflakes, but if you want to eat them with milk, you're going to have to make do with powdered milk, which some elders liked it, some elders didn't, but and I liked it to a certain degree. It's nowhere near as good as fresh milk, but it's let's see. There's also what they call them local markets. We would refer to them as open air markets, though, like markets that are just out on the street, where people have it's just stand after stand after stand of individuals selling goods that they've either grown or goods that they've bought in bulk and then separated for retail. And they'll sell spices and fruits and vegetables and beans and rice and fish. And sometimes they'll make little candies and sell them there. But most of the basic commodities that the people there eat are bought in these local markets. And it's kind of a fun experience to walk through one of these markets. And we bought rice from them. We bought things from them occasionally. And it was really fun because one thing about buying things in Sierra Leone is they do a lot of bartering. If it's anything that's more than just what would translate over to be like $1 or $2, they will barter, and so you learn how to kind of get the price that you want and not pay too much for things. But that was something that was kind of new. Here we have a price tag on everything. There they just negotiate on everything, and so that's kind of a fun thing to do. Some other things about day-to-day life. Kind of a day in the life of a missionary there is solid appointments. You are just moving from one appointment to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And you fill your entire day full of appointments. We would usually have ours average about 45 minutes to an hour, but different missionaries would do it a little bit differently sometimes. But it's more or less just back to back. You can even skip lunch if you want and still have enough appointments to go throughout the day, which I did probably a few too many times because I just wanted to teach and just wanted to continue. And but that was more or less what it was from the time you wake up to the time you return to your apartment. And it can become tricky because you're dealing with a people that don't always deal with time very well. In Africa, things are very laid back. They don't have the same, minute by minute scheduling that we do here in America. They just it's kind of relaxed, and I kind of learned to really enjoy that lifestyle and kind of how relaxed it was. But when you're trying to schedule appointments and say we're going to come at 4 o'clock, and then you come at 4 o'clock and they're doing something else or they're not there, it's not because they hate you or they're trying to avoid you or something. It's just a lot of the time it's just because they weren't paying attention to time, or they didn't have a clock that they could look at for some reason, or things like that. So you know, I've said before that any missionary that comes out of that mission would make a good receptionist, because you're constantly having to run a schedule, and when an appointment bounces, you're filling it with something else to try and keep the time as productive as possible, and you're dealing with a lot of investigators. There was one point where I counted the investigators that we were trying to make contact with, and we had like 40 or something like that, and it's almost impossible to see them all in a week, and so you have to prioritize. As a missionary, you have to kind of spend time with those that you feel need it the most, those that are progressing the fastest, and there are a lot of what are termed as golden investigators. If you'll find people that are definitely ready, and they're ready to hear the gospel, and they're ready to just grab a hold of it, and they'll take it as fast as you'll give it to them. And so I ended up spending a lot of time just seeing those people and getting them done with the lessons, baptizing them, teaching them some of the lessons after baptism, and then moving on to the next people on the list, because they that's kind of how the nature of the work was there. Just so many people that you can teach, and you just have to decide which ones you're going to teach and which ones, and so that it comes as inspiration between you and your companion, how you're going to prioritize your time, and just deciding on that. But that's what you can look forward to day to day. There is just lots and lots of teaching. And on P days, P days is kind of like, it's a preparation day, and they call it that for a good reason. It's occasionally we had time to do fun things, like we would go and play soccer or something like that, which is a huge sport over there. Whenever you're playing a sport, it's always soccer, because that's just, there they call it football. Football is life, but when most of the time we didn't have time to do that. We were too busy trying to get enough food to last us for the rest of the week, doing our shopping, cleaning the apartment, getting everything ready, doing everything that we couldn't do during the week, because we were literally so back to back, filled with appointments during the whole week. And so on P Day, which was when I was there, at least, was Monday, and we would just pretty much spend the entire day just getting everything prepared for the rest of the week, and getting whatever we could done around the apartment and things like that. As far as transportation in Sierra Leone is done by mostly by walking. There's as far as I know, there's not really any bikes there. So wherever you go, you're most likely going to be walking a lot, unless you're traveling to a place that is a lot longer away. Then you'll take what is called a poda. Now, a poda is pretty much just a van, an older style van, not even a huge van, but they have taken all the seats out of it, and they've put in their own fabricated seats to the point where you're getting about 19 people in this relatively small van. And these vans kind of run a route, like a bus would almost, and then you have a poda that's going from one place to another. You climb on, and then they'll make stops along the way to pick people up and to drop people off. And there's a guy on there that you pay as when you're sitting there, and he'll go around and collect money from all the people on the bus, and you learn to get very close and very friendly with the person next to you, because they're 4 people in a seat, and if one of those people is bigger than the others, then you just end up having to really, really squish. And in Liberia, they have taxis mostly in Liberia. There's small little Nissan cars that operate as taxis, and in Liberia they put 4 people in the back of a normal sized car, which would normally fit 3. But 4 means more money, So they'll put 4 people in there, and every person pays for themselves. And the taxis run almost like a bus as well. The taxis will also have a route that they're going, or a specific place that they're going to. And so if you're going to either that place or somewhere along the way, you grab that taxi and you go there. But in Liberia, another common thing is motorcycles. Now, not too many people in the world, not too many places in the world, I don't think they have commercial motorcycles. But there are just people riding around on motorcycles, and they're all doing it for business. People aren't just riding motorcycles usually for fun. Most of the motorcycles that you see, they're riding it for business. And so you just hail a motorcycle rider like you would a taxi. They stop by, you hop on the back and tell them where you want to go. Now, motorcycles run more like we would have a taxi run here, where you get on and you tell them where you want to go, and they'll go there. And you can fit sometimes 2 or 3 people on one of these motorcycles. And I think different mission presidents have different regulations on how they're going to allow missionaries to use these motorcycles, because of course motorcycles are inherently a bit more dangerous. And but I did a lot of riding around on those. In fact, in Sierra Leone, they do that a little bit too. Not quite as much as Liberia maybe, but they do have motorcycles there too. And so we would occasionally use those, particularly if we had a place that they could only get to by motorcycle. There wasn't anyone running a route to that place, or if we were in a hurry, because they are faster too. They're faster to use a motorcycle.